Tussey Podcast, where we talk about anything and everything that could ever amount to anything or everything to anybody and everybody who ever intends to amount to something. We'll be right back. Welcome to this edition of the Real Gary Tussey Podcast. I'm your host, Gary Tussey. Our Facebook live feed is with us today. We've got our real cams fired up, Sony 4K4, Sony 4K1 with the filter on it. That one's got a filter. And when you see it in post-production, maybe if I didn't tell you, you wouldn't know. But that's for the lovely and talented Julie. She wants a filter. I don't, maybe you want me to have a filter when I'm doing this, but I don't need a filter. I don't care. But I don't take it off just for me. I just leave it on there, you know. We're talking about music. We're producing this podcast on a Thursday, and every Thursday and Friday we talk about music, something about my music path. I encourage our listeners on live Facebook to phone in if they care to, and we talk about, you know, whatever is really sparking an interest for that moment when we're talking about these things. And I keep my journal with me all the time, and podcasters, you can't see it, but live feed can, and the real cams can. I keep my journal with me, and here's a fresh one. It's mostly blank pages, but all through the day I take notes of whatever I'm applying my hand to. If it's noteworthy, which a lot of it is, and I encourage you in your life is noteworthy, take some notes, journal, and take some notes, and that helps me stay focused on things we do when we do a live feed or when we're producing the podcast. And one thing that spoke to me, and it started, you know, I have these moments, I go like this, I go, You ever do that? I go, and for the podcast people, I'm taking my chin into my right hand, and I'm kind of stroking back and forth on each side, and I'm looking up and I'm going, So if there's a moment in my life, I've learned to, hey, I can find out about that. I don't have to be held in bay because I don't know something. Guess what? I live in a society, I live in a place where I can enjoy finding out new information and getting involved with new information in my life. So that's what I do. So something that occurred to me was music, and what we like about music is what does it say about us? What does it speak about us? What does it say to us or about us? And so I dove into that with some pulling up some things here online that I thought were very, very informative for what we're doing. On the last podcast, we talked about these things. I pulled up a site, and it's the site is Loop, and they sell headphones and earbuds, really, really great products. And we talked about pop music. If you're a pop fan, you're mostly extroverted. You may be somewhat turbulent from time to time, or nervous occasionally, but then the music helps to settle you down. We talk about rap and hip hop, and as a fan of hip hop music, you've proven to be outgoing and an extrovert. Rock music, you're intuitive. You're always contemplating future possibilities. And if it comes to challenges, you're pretty relaxed with challenges, and you're flexible. And you have a high sense of flexibility in your life. You also, there are different kinds of rock. So I think it bears repeating to read this again. Of course, there are quite a few different kinds of rock. If you're a fan of classics, chances are you're a hard worker, at ease with yourself, and you love nostalgic vibes. Not being a fan of classics could be regarded as a felony in this. That's just a commentary there. But the classics are the bomb, aren't they? They've brought us to where we are now. On the other hand, indie rock enthusiasts, I really thought this was interesting. Indie rock, independent rock and roll enthusiasts turn out to be on the opposite side. If you're a fan of indie, you are probably a lazy person while sporting low self-esteem. However, as an indie rocker, you are more creative than other people. So if we can glean information and not be each other's judge about how things speak to us and how we are, what our psyche says about us because we are fans of a particular type of music, then good, because we can live and let live, and we can enjoy life knowing things about each other without being each other's judge, right? And that's critical. So we're going to go on here talking. Hey guys, I had an emergency there for a minute. I lost my live feed, and now I got it back. I lost my live feed on my monitor, so here we got it back. So good. You got to roll with it. I eat adversity for breakfast while it's crunchy, so we can handle this, right? So I don't. That's a good question, and I read this, and I don't know what it says about bluegrass. We got questions pointing in, but I do know we're going to get to country here in a minute, and I on some of these they didn't even bother, and I read several, or let me say it like this: skimmed through and read the highlights on some of these, and then I landed on this one to share with you today. And you can find these online, and I encourage you to do that. You can find these on Google searches. There's a lot of them out there. What your favorite music, what it says about you. You get down here to metal. That was impressive to me, and I want to move on so we don't run out of time. But metal, let me read this again. We had this on the last podcast. The traits possessed by metal fans are distinctive and turn out to be the opposite of pop fans. If you like throwing up the horns, that's just the two-finger thing, you are mostly introverted and very intuitive. This means you live in a world of ideas and reflection, and new information does not have to be tangible for you to interpret and possess it. Then it goes on to say, even though the music itself can be heavy, this is really interesting to me, talking about metal music. Even though the music itself can be heavy or dark, this certainly can't be said about you. According to the test they went through, and they did these over months and years, all these tests. As a metal fan, you are quite the gentle person. You're also really creative. In another study I read about what your favorite music says about you, said that metal fans mostly are cuddlers and snugglers and really pine for intimacy. I thought that was really interesting. Very revealing, isn't it? So, okay. To glean information about someone and then not judge them, it's not so much a gift. You've got to train yourself to do that. We're learning about people's psyche into what their favorite music is, how it speaks for them. Can we glean information about people and then not be their judge? Because if you don't judge, you won't be judged. And if you show mercy, then you'll have mercy. And wow, that's amazing stuff. So we're learning this. As a music fan myself, there's not a music that I don't enjoy. There's not a music that I don't like. There's some I like better than others. And then I will go through, my granny called them spells. I will go through times when I want to hear this and not that and that and not this. And I'm sure you do too. Now, classical, this is interesting. Classical music, if you do have good intuition, if you're a classical music fan, and I do often enjoy particularly Mozart, if you have good intuition and a healthy amount of self-esteem. Being intuitive as a classical music fan means you tend to trust incoming information that is less dependent on the senses. Instead, you consider future possibilities or try to find patterns. The nice amount of self-esteem speaks for itself as a classical music fan. Now, interesting. R&B. Let's jump down to R&B. This is a big deal. R&B attracts a lot of outgoing, extroverted listeners. If you are a fan of R&B, you are someone who truly follows their heart. You have no problem showing your emotions, especially emotions inspired by music. Random fact. Apparently, you are not the biggest fan of green energy and are perfectly fine with the current use of fossil fuels. Throwing in a little commentary there. I'm on the Loop site, which sells earbuds and headphones. So EDM, you know what EDM is? That's electronic music, electronic and digital music. And if you've not heard any of that, I think you should. It's very interesting stuff, and but it's still music. Very interesting. Electronic and digital music. EDM spans a wide range of genres, but there's a few different traits that appear amongst fans of all kinds of EDM. Fans of electronic dance music are outgoing and social. This should not be a surprise because it is dance music, and although some people dance alone, if I ever dance, it's alone. I'm going to tell you that right now. But this should not be a surprise, as these days EDM is widely accepted all around the world. EDM actually in this commentary, puts Europe on the map. Wow. Interesting stuff here. Where's my view of country music? Did I pass that? Oh, my word. We may have to bring this up. I tell you what, on tomorrow's production of the podcast and our live feed, we're going to look at country and bluegrass music and what it says about us, if you are a country and music and bluegrass music fan. And let me tell you why that's important, because we're from Kentucky. Bluegrass was born here, and some of the largest selling country music artists are from Kentucky. So we have to dive into this, and I'm not seeing it here so that I can work with you and show you these statistics. I know this much. I know and associate with a lot of country music fans, and they're the salt of the earth, and I love doing country music. I perform, but I'm more of a traditional country music guy. The new stuff, not so much. And our bluegrass, it shows a very, very high order of talent to be able to do it. So we're going to talk about that on the next podcast, and we're producing that on tomorrow's live feed, so don't miss out on that. We're just about out of time on today's program, so we'll take it up on tomorrow. You know what I have noticed about country music that is really, really refreshing to me, and that is the storytellingest music I think that you will ever find. Always telling a story, and not so much with rock and roll or blues or R&B, but country is always telling somebody's story, and I really, really appreciate it. Country music is very reflective, and bluegrass as well. We're going to talk about that on our next podcast, so don't miss Real Gary Tussey podcast and Real Gary Tussey Live. I'm excited about you seeing our logo, and hopefully I'll have it up tomorrow where you can see our logo for the podcast. We're out of time today, but I want to remind you to live and let live, be free, and set other people free, and apply a high energy pursuit for happiness. Tussey out.